Shalom. Hiram Yashra'al, servant of the Most High Yahuwah, and his son, Yahusha. To the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greetings. Well, brothers and sisters, this video is going to be the conclusion for the series which asks the question, do the scriptures teach a flat, domed earth? And so what I'm doing in this video is I'm reviewing 10 of the main points that I made throughout this video series. And as we started in part 1, and a couple points I made, the first point I made was concerning the firmament or the expanse. And I made the point that the firmament, the expanse, the rakiyah in the Hebrew is a solid enclosure above the earth. And so it's a solid enclosure as opposed to just empty air or empty space. It's a solid enclosure. And the second point I made is that there is a large body of water above this enclosure and that is being supported by this enclosure. It is the waters above the firmament, the waters above the expanse. And so we made the point that these were waters that weren't just there in Noah's day and they just emptied out to flood the world, but the psalmist even tells us, praise Yahuwah, ye waters above the firmament. So we know that they are still there. That's the second point I made. Third point I made was that the Most High actually dwells above the waters above the firmament. So the Most High dwells in a physical location. So it's not just out in the spirit realm and just invisible and having no connection to our world. But the scriptures teach that he dwells above the waters above the firmament. So the fourth point that I made was from part 2. And that is, we dealt with the earth and its foundations, that the earth has ends. The earth has extremities. That there are places where you can go in the earth where you cannot go any further. Yes, the earth can and has been circumnavigated by ship and by plane. But at the same time, there are places within the earth where that you can't go any further. If you do your own independent research, you'll see what I'm talking about. I don't have time to go into all of that right now. But the earth has ends. The earth has extremities. It's the fourth point I made. Now, the fifth point is that the earth has foundations. A foundation is something that you build on top of. And so that would not make sense in a scenario with a globe earth that's supposed to have some kind of core that goes out in all these different directions and supposedly has all these continents. But the earth is built upon foundations. And so the sixth point that I make is that the earth is, it does have a circular nature now. People say, is the earth flat or is it round? Well, it's both. That it is enclosed within a two-dimensional flat circle. It's not enclosed within a three-dimensional ball, but within a two-dimensional flat circle. And so that's what explains the circumnavigation and how, yes, you can go around the world. Yes, there are, if you go east to west, that you can start at one point, go around the world, and end up at the next point. But you can't do that. You can't do that north to south. It doesn't work the same way because it is a two-dimensional. It's contained within a two-dimensional flat circle. So that is the sixth point that I made. The seventh point is that the earth is immovable. It does not move. It does not rotate on an axis. The eighth point that I made, most of my points were from part 2, is that the earth is entirely visible from a high enough place. The scriptures are very clear that every eye is going to see Yahusha when he comes, and all the tribes of the earth are going to mourn because of him. And so that would not be possible on a globe earth. There'd be people on the other side of the planet, so to speak, that would not be able to see him. And so we made that point, that it's entirely visible from a high enough place. Now, with part 3, dealing with the sun, moon, and stars, I made a couple more points. The 9th point I made is that the sun, moon, and stars are contained within the firmament, within the expanse, within the enclosure. So they're not located millions of miles out there in outer space, so to speak, but they are contained within the firmament, within the expanse, and they are local. They're a lot closer than what we have been taught. And then the 10th point that I made is that the sun, moon, and stars have courses. All of those heavenly bodies move. So the earth does not move. We already talked about that in point 7. But it's the heavenly bodies that move, including the sun, because what we've been taught is that the sun does not move and the earth rotates on its axis at about 1,000 miles an hour, and then revolves around the sun at an even faster rate than that, and makes its loop around the sun once every year. And so we're taught that the sun is just a huge star, and that these planets revolve around it. And what's interesting, if you do your research, is that the same people who teach us of the greatness of the sun, how it's so big like that and everything revolves around it, it's the same people that have pushed sun worship for many, many centuries. I'll let you figure that out. I'll let you find that in your own research. And so the sun, moon, and stars move and not the earth. These are the points that I make in this video series, brothers and sisters. And so in regard to research and verifying what I'm saying with facts, that brothers and sisters, I encourage you to be careful and be prayerful when it comes to that. And so be very careful about what you call a fact, because a fact is not a true fact unless you can personally verify it. You cannot really call something a fact. I mean, something may or may not be true, but let me give you an example concerning the sun. Now, we're told that the sun is 93 million miles away. We're told that the sun has a diameter of 864,938 miles. That's how far the sun is supposed to be all the way around. It's supposed to have a weight of 1.989 times 10 to the 30th power kilograms. That's how much it's supposed to weigh. And the volume of it is supposed to be 1.4 times 10 to the 27th power cubic miles. So my question would be, in the volume, they say that the sun is supposed to be able to contain 1.3 million planet Earths. That's how big, that's how huge these sun worshipers have taught us that the sun is. But see, brothers and sisters, can ordinary people like you and I verify any of those facts? I mean, what's to stop a scientist from saying, okay, it weighs X and X to 10 to the 5th power. Let's just change that to 20. Let's change it to 40. Let's change it to 50. They'll never know. And they're right. We will never know. Where's the scale that they weighed this on? Where's the instruments that they use to measure these distances? I'm trying to make a point here. And the point I'm making is that astronomical science is different from other sciences we learned in school. That other sciences we learned in school, that we learned that a frog needs oxygen to live. You can personally verify that. You can get a frog, put it in a glass, put your hand over it, and if you do it long enough, he'll die. You've just proven that a frog needs oxygen to live. You can personally verify that a plant needs light in order to live. You can take a plant, put it in a closet for about a month, take it out, that plant will be dead. You have personally verified that. Astronomical science is different. You have to trust the experts. You have to trust that when you look in some telescope or observatory that what they're telling you is true. They're saying, oh, you see that up there? That's Jupiter, that's Pluto, that's X and X millions of miles away. How do you know that? All you know is you see something when you look through that thing, but how do you know it's what they're telling you? There's so little that can be personally verified when it comes to astronomical science. So that's why we need to get a scriptural foundation first, and then when it comes to facts that support that make sure it's something you can personally verify. Now, there are some things that can be personally verified just by sight. And if you do your research, you'll see what those things are. And I encourage you to pursue after those things, because, brothers and sisters, it does my heart good to see power be brought back into the hands of ordinary people, where we're not in bondage to the intellectual elite and we have to believe everything that they shove down our throats. I believe that each and every one of us has been given the ability to think for ourselves, to use our own minds, instead of just believe what's being told to us. And see, I'm speaking to the truth seeker community here. And, so many other fields, so many other areas. Let's look at the medical industry. You know people lie there. They say no one's ever come up with a cure for cancer. Well, you know there have been naturopathic doctors that have come up with cures and they come up dead. Dozens of them. So you know they lie in the medical industry. The food industry. You see those cartons where they make people, they force people that put out like milk and things that are, and if they say that they're not treated, the cows are not treated with that RBGST or whatever they call it, the growth hormone, they have to put on there that research has shown that there's nothing harmful about the growth hormone. And so they make them put it on there whether they agree with putting it on there or not. We know those people lie. We know the love of money is the root of all evil. Let's look at the religion industry, because it is an industry. We know preachers lie. We know people lie because they want to control the people and they want that money. So in all these other areas, we as truth seekers know that these people lie. What makes this area any different? Why is it that we want to hang on to what we've been taught in public school when in public school, let me ask you this, you Israelites out there, you who know that you are the true children of Israel, so-called black, so-called Negroes, so-called colors, so-called African Americans, let me ask you this, did they teach you that in public school? They teach you that in the media? Did your pastor teach you that? No, none of the above. That the secret things belong unto Yahuwah, but the things revealed belong to us and our children, that we may keep all the words of this Torah. Yah revealed that to you, and it was confirmed through the scriptures. What makes this any different? If they're not telling us the truth about anything else, why would they tell us the truth about this? But I don't want to go too far into that. If you haven't already done so, look at the video that says, why should we discuss the flat earth if you question even the validity of talking about this subject? But I've reviewed the points, and I want to leave you with this, because some of you I have convinced, some of you I have not convinced, some of you are still adamantly opposed to what I brought out during this video series. This is what I want to challenge you with, because this is why one of the things that I said in the intro was I encourage you to research, but research to understand. Don't research to debunk. Research to understand. And so if you disagree with what I brought forth in this video series, if you believe I have laid a crooked rod before you, then I challenge you to lay a straight rod before me. You show what the scriptures teach. Go through the first 4 days of creation and show what the scriptures truly teach about the heavens and the earth. Go through the rest of the scriptures with confirming witnesses. Show what the scriptures truly teach about the heavens and the earth. If you believe it's a globe, show it. Should be in the scriptures. Scriptures mentioned about 50 times it talks about the heavens and the earth, maybe even more than that. And so if the earth is a spinning globe, surely we should see some clues in there about that. If we live in a universe with billions and billions of galaxies, and the sun is, yay big, and everything we talked about before, surely there should be something in the scriptures to tell us about that. So I challenge you, show me what is. Don't just show me what is not. Don't just, debunk, but show me what the scripture does teach, what you believe the scripture does teach about the heavens and the earth, because I believe that the answer to the question that I brought forth in this series, do the scriptures teach a flat domed earth? I believe that the answer is an emphatic yes, brothers and sisters. In fact, you know what is what's amazing, and you'll find this in your own research if you look far enough. There are biblical scholars that are nominal Christians. They just go to normal denominational churches. They admit that the ancient Hebrews believed this way. What I'm telling you right here, they admit that. They admit that the ancient Hebrews believed in a flat, domed earth. They believe that even the scriptures literally teach that. They just don't take the scripture literally. They just say, well, because of modern science, we know differently, so the scriptures are not to be taken literally. And so that's the final point I want to leave you with, brothers and sisters, as I conclude this video series, is that there is no doubt that the literal rendering of scripture does yield a flat, domed earth. It just does. I mean, Christian scholars even concede to that. But do you take the scripture literally, or do you take it symbolically? This is an area where you have to be very careful and very prayerful, because people tend to make it symbolic when it's something that they don't want to believe. I mean, think about it. Think of all of the whites and people of other nations out there that don't believe that we are the true children of Israel. Now, when the scriptures say our skin was black like an oven, it talks about how the Nazarites and how they are more ruddy than rubies, but now their faces were blacker than coal. Because people don't want to believe that the ancient Israelites were a black people, they will dance all around those scriptures and they won't take it literally. It has to mean something else. There has to be something symbolic around it. That's what people tend to do when they don't want to believe what the scriptures clearly say. They just make it symbolic. Make sure you're not doing that. Make sure that if you're saying something symbolic, that you can support it, that you can demonstrate it throughout the scripture, that that's meant to be taken symbolically. Praise Yahuwah. That's why we need to pray. That's why we need Yah to reveal things to us, because otherwise we can make the scripture say anything we want it to say. But what the scriptures clearly teach, I laid it out for you. I answered the question for you. I challenge you. If you disagree, then you show me what it does say. If it doesn't say that, you show me what it does say. Praise Yahuwah. And so I thank each and every one of you, those that have gone all the way through this series, from the intro all the way to the conclusion. I encourage you, prayerfully study these scriptures. Go over them again and again. You may not grasp it the first time, but go back over this, do your own independent research, communicate with me. Let me know what you come up with. My email address is down below. You can leave me comments in the comment section, comments, questions. Make sure everything's edifying. Praise Yahuwah. And so I will leave you with that. And with that, I will say, Shalom.